So, my wife, Ashley, and I had been married for 12 years. We worked at the same company, which might sound like a recipe for disaster, but it was fine for a while. We were family friends with my boss, Steve, and his wife, Linda, for at least a decade. Barbecues, double dates, you name it, we were practically the poster children for happy suburban families. Or so I thought. I had always known Steve wasn't exactly the faithful type. The guy had a wandering eye, but I kept my mouth shut. It's one thing to know your friend's dirty little secrets, but it's a whole different ballgame when those secrets start crawling into your own life. I noticed Ashley was acting weird. You know that gut feeling? The one that tells you something's off, but you don't have the receipts yet? She was glued to her phone more than usual, constantly making up excuses to stay late at work, and always had some flimsy story about meeting up with the girls. The girls. Yeah, right. But I brushed it off. I trusted her. We were solid, right? At least that's what I told myself while watching Netflix alone every other night. So, one day, I get this call from Linda, Steve's wife. Now, Linda and I weren't exactly the type to chat outside of group gatherings, so this was already a bit unusual. I figured maybe she wanted to plan some dinner or something. But boy, was I in for it. The second I picked up the phone, she was already crying. I could barely make out what she was saying between sobs, but the gist was clear enough. She had hired a private investigator. Steve had been cheating on her, again, but this time, it wasn't just with some random woman. It was Ashley. My Ashley. I felt like someone had punched me in the gut. My mouth went dry. There was this long silence on the phone while I tried to wrap my head around what Linda was saying. I could barely breathe, let alone respond. "I'm so sorry, I didn't know how to tell you," Linda stammered through her tears. "But you deserve to know. They've been at it for a while. I have proof." Proof. I didn't want proof. I wanted this to be some nightmare I could wake up from. But Linda wasn't going to let me off the hook that easily. She told me she had video footage, emails, all of it. She had hired the PI weeks ago, and the guy had apparently uncovered enough to make any divorce lawyer's day. We met up later that week. Linda brought her laptop and showed me the footage. And there it was. Ashley and Steve, together. It wasn't some kiss caught on camera either. It was full-on, undeniable sex. No one was getting out of this one. I wanted to throw up. I had trusted these people. They weren't just co-workers. They were family friends. Our kids had playdates. We spent holidays together. And now, I was watching my wife betray me with the one person I'd never suspected. But instead of flipping out right then and there, I decided to play it cool. I didn't confront Ashley. No, I had a better plan in mind. Linda and I weren't going to just roll over and take this. We decided it was time to hit them where it hurt. After seeing that footage, it felt like everything inside me was on fire. I wanted to storm home, scream, throw things, hell, maybe even punch Steve in the face. But then I thought, no, they don't get to control my emotions like that. They don't get to win. Instead, Linda and I sat there, staring at the damning evidence on her laptop, and we started talking. I guess that's when things took a wild turn. Linda, still wiping her eyes, looks at me and says, "We can't just let them get away with this. We need to do something." And in my mind, revenge was already brewing. I mean, what do you do when your spouse cheats on you with your best friend? You get creative. I wasn't about to roll over and pretend it didn't happen. And neither was Linda. "Why don't we give them a taste of their own medicine?" I suggested, half joking at first. Linda's eyes narrowed as she processed what I meant. She didn't laugh. Instead, she leaned in, that same fire burning behind her eyes. "You mean, us? Together?" I hadn't really thought it through, but the more I did, the more it made sense. If they were willing to destroy our lives with their affair, then maybe we could flip the script on them. Linda was all in. We weren't doing this out of love or lust. This was pure, calculated revenge. We figured we'd make it even sweeter. We'd film it, just like Steve and Ashley had been filmed. And then, when the time was right, we'd send them the video. Let them see exactly how it feels to be on the receiving end of betrayal. And, believe it or not, that's exactly what we did. It was awkward at first, I'm not going to lie. But once we reminded ourselves why we were doing this, The awkwardness melted away. We were both fueled by the same rage, and somehow that made it easier. We recorded the whole thing, making sure it was crystal clear who we were and why we were doing it. By the time it was over, I didn't feel guilt, I felt exhilarated. This wasn't about love, this was about justice. We had just turned the tables in a way neither Steve nor Ashley could have seen coming. We made sure the video was securely stored, and then we sat back, waiting for the perfect moment to drop our little bombshell. A week passed. I hadn't breathed a word to Ashley about what I knew. I played the role of the clueless husband perfectly, business as usual. Meanwhile, Linda and I were carefully planning the perfect time to send the video. We wanted maximum impact. Steve was about to head out on a work trip, and Ashley had been acting like nothing was wrong, texting him on the sly, making excuses to be busy when she should have been home. I knew they were planning to meet up while Steve was away. I could see it in her face, the way she'd smirk at her phone and leave the room to take his calls. That's when Linda and I decided it was time. The night before Steve's trip, Linda and I scheduled a double surprise. First, we sent them both the video, timed perfectly to hit their inboxes at the same time. I didn't want Ashley to get any advance warning. Oh no. We wanted them to experience the shock together. At around 10 p.m., I casually sat down on the couch next to Ashley, pretending to scroll through my phone. I knew any second now, her phone was going to buzz. And when it did, well, I'd been waiting for this moment. Right on cue, her phone chimed, and I watched as she picked it up. Her expression went from casual to confused, to absolutely horrified in about 3 seconds flat. She couldn't hide it, no matter how hard she tried. She dropped the phone like it burned her, eyes wide, jaw hanging open. "What the hell is this, Tom?" she stammered, pointing at her phone like it had just exploded. I leaned back, completely calm, and smiled. "Oh, I think you know exactly what that is, Ashley." I watched the realization wash over her face. She knew. I knew. Everything was out in the open now. "That's payback, honey. You didn't think you could screw Steve behind my back and not face the consequences, did you?" Her face twisted into this weird mix of fear and anger, like she couldn't decide which emotion to run with. How could you?" "Oh, no, I cut her off, still smiling like I had the upper hand, because I did. "Don't even try to spin this. You've been screwing my best friend for God knows how long, and now you want to play the victim? Not happening." At that moment, her phone buzzed again. Steve. He'd just seen the video too. The look on her face was priceless, but I wasn't done yet. "I guess your little secret's out, huh?" I said. "But don't worry, Steve's wife is getting the same message. I'm sure she's having a wonderful chat with him right about now." Ashley went from shock to full-on meltdown in seconds. Screaming, crying, accusing me of being a monster for what I'd done. But the more she ranted, the less I cared. She had lied to me for years, and now she wanted sympathy? Nope. "Don't even bother trying to explain yourself," I said, cutting through her hysterics. "This marriage, it's over. You and Steve deserve each other." While Ashley was busy having her meltdown, Steve was blowing up my phone. I had half a mind to ignore him, but come on, I had to see what the man had to say for himself. I picked up his call, and honestly, it was worth every second. "Dude, what the hell is this?" Steve barked into the phone. His voice was shaking, all his usual confidence gone. "Guess being caught pants down will do that to you." "Oh, you know exactly what it is, Steve," I said, deadpan. "Consider it a little thank you for all the times you screwed my wife behind my back. Thought you'd appreciate the effort I put into it." "You're out of your mind," Steve yelled. I could hear him pacing, probably pulling at what little hair he had left. "You and Linda. What were you thinking?" "I don't know, man," I said, laying the sarcasm on thick. "Maybe we were thinking about how you two destroyed our marriages. But hey, at least now you get to know how it feels to be betrayed by the person you trusted the most. Pretty wild, huh?" The line went quiet. Steve wasn't used to being on the receiving end of humiliation, and it showed. He stammered a few more curse words, but there was nothing left to say. He knew he was caught, and he knew I wasn't backing down. After a few more awkward seconds, he hung up. That was the last time I spoke to him. "Now, Ashley." "Well, she didn't take things quietly. After her initial freakout, she started with the lies. Oh, the lies. She tried to spin every excuse in the book. It wasn't serious, she screamed, as if that would make me feel better. It was just a fling. Steve means nothing to me. I just stared at her, unimpressed. So, you threw away our marriage for something that meant nothing to you? That makes it even worse, Ashley. She kept digging her own grave with each pathetic attempt to justify what she'd done. I never meant to hurt you. It was a mistake. A mistake. I laughed bitterly. Cheating for years isn't a mistake. It's a choice. Repeatedly. Don't even try to play the victim here. At this point, she was desperate. She tried guilt-tripping me about how I had betrayed her by hooking up with Linda. Like, seriously? After all this, I was the bad guy. Unbelievable. But I didn't care anymore. Her words just bounced off me. All I saw was the woman who had lied, cheated, and betrayed me, and no amount of sobbing or fake apologies was going to change that. By the time I walked out that door, I felt nothing but relief. Ashley's world was crumbling around her, and there wasn't a damn thing she could do about it. Now, it was time to finalize the divorce and make sure she and Steve got exactly what they deserved. Divorce is messy. Anyone who's been through it can tell you that. But in this case, it was almost satisfying watching everything unravel for Ashley and Steve. The second I filed for divorce, Ashley completely lost it. She tried to pull every dirty trick in the book. Guilt, manipulation, even trying to convince me to work things out. Like I was supposed to just forget about the fact that she'd been screwing Steve for years. Linda, on the other hand, was a rock star. The moment she got the video, she filed for divorce too. Steve didn't even see it coming. One minute he thought he had the upper hand, sleeping with his buddy's wife, and the next, his entire life was in flames. Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy, really. The real fun came when the lawyers got involved. Ashley tried to play victim in the divorce proceedings, crying about how I had betrayed her with Linda, as if she wasn't the one who started this mess. But I was prepared. Linda had all the evidence from the private investigator, and we weren't afraid to use it. Between the footage, the emails, and the timeline of events, Ashley didn't stand a chance. Steve. Oh, he was in for it too. Linda cleaned him out. She got the house, the cars, and a hefty chunk of his savings. By the time the dust settled, Steve and Ashley were left with nothing but each other, and honestly, they deserved every bit of it. Meanwhile, I walked away with my head held high. I didn't feel sorry for either of them. They were two selfish people who thought they could play us for fools, and they got exactly what they had coming. Karma, right? The divorce went through without much of a fight after that. Ashley moved in with Steve, which was fine by me. Let them be miserable together. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just done. Looking back, I realized something important. Sometimes, the people you trust the most are the ones who are capable of hurting you in ways you never imagined. But once you see the truth, there's no going back. I learned to trust my gut, to never ignore those red flags, and most importantly, to value myself enough not to put up with anyone's bullshit. So, to anyone reading this who might be going through something similar, don't ignore the signs, and don't let anyone make you feel like you're crazy for questioning things. Trust yourself. And if someone betrays you like this, don't be afraid to walk away. You deserve better. As for me, I'm doing just fine. Ashley and Steve, well, I hear they're not exactly living their best lives. But hey, not my problem anymore. Thank you for visited my YouTube channel. Your support, likes, and comments truly inspire me to create even more engaging content. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. You're a part of this amazing community, and I'm thrilled to share my stories with you. See you in the next video on YouTube.